no John Morant, no Desmond Bain, no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Luke Kennard, no Derrick Rose, no whoever you could think of, they probably were out. But the Grizzlies, somehow, some way, because Gigi Jackson wasn't out, Vince Williams wasn't out, Ziaire Williams was back too. The Grizzlies pulled off one of the biggest upsets in the NBA this season, a 113-110 win against Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, and the Milwaukee Bucks. We got to talk about how it happened here on Locked On Grizzlies because Vince Williams is heading to the Rise of Stars game, and he shouldn't be the only Grizzlies player going. But let's talk about it right here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer here for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee. Going solo today without my co-host Joe Mullinax, getting a well-deserved day off. Joe does a lot of great work for Locked On Grizzlies, so I'm glad to be here with you guys after an exciting game for the Memphis Grizzlies, as we alluded to earlier, a 113-110 win against the Milwaukee Bucks. How the game pretty much played out, the Grizzlies started to take control midway through the game, led by 9 points at the end of the third quarter. And you probably were thinking along with what I've been thinking. What was going to prevail? Was it going to be just like the game before against the Houston Rockets, where the Grizzlies had a strong fourth quarter? Or was it going to be like most of the games during the 9-game losing streak, where the Grizzlies played pretty good through 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, teams when they ramped up their energy and whatnot and matched the Grizzlies' energy and those teams' skills, just, the Grizzlies missing a lot of their main guys, it eventually takes over in the fourth quarter. And for a second, that's how it looked. Looked like the Grizzlies are going to struggle, and the Bucks came out hot early in the quarter, took a 100-98 lead before the Grizzlies got 2 big three-pointers from Gigi Jackson. And after Gigi's second three-pointer gave the Grizzlies a 104-102 lead, didn't trail again. The Grizzlies did not trail from that point on. It was some Ziaire Williams alley-oops in there. Big game for Ziaire Williams, 27 points, career high for him. Big game for Gigi Jackson, tied his career high with 27 as well. Vince Williams, big dog around here, 18 points, 12 rebounds from Vince Williams. I think 6 were offensive boards. So, and he had a bunch of them that were tipped. Like the dude is everywhere on the offensive glass. 7 assists for Vince Williams. He now has 6 consecutive games, 5 more assists. We'll talk more Vince Williams later, but just take note of that. That was kind of your big 3 in this game. Lamar Stevens was huge, and I shouldn't say that was your big 3 because Lamar Stevens was just as big, and we're going to talk more about what he did. But in this first segment, we got to talk about Gigi Jackson. Man, I'll admit, I've been high on Gigi for a while, almost from when the Grizzlies drafted him, because of the pedigree, right? You're talking about a guy who was the number 1 pick. I mean, not the number 1 pick, but the number 1 overall recruit in his class, reclassified, youngest player in the draft. Like, he had every reason. The situation for the Grizzlies just felt perfect. Like, you got this team that's young, but kind of battle tested. He could come here to Memphis, go down to the hustle, and develop. And we know the offensive talent. We saw it in summer league. You saw the off the dribble, moves that he has in his bag and stuff like that. A lot of guys on the Grizzlies just don't have it. It's different because he's 6'9", moving like that. Not Vince Williams. Gigi Jackson starting to put it together a little bit. And when I say putting it together, he's got a long way to go. Long way to be the player he can eventually be. But when I say put it together, I'm talking about just he's comfortable out there. That's the first step for a 19-year-old rookie. He's comfortable. That ball swung to Gigi Jackson. There's no hesitating now. And remember, I pointed this out too. When he first started coming to the games, you could see it. He was thinking while he was shooting. Gigi Jackson is taking heat checks now first quarter, I think he made 4 3-pointers, and after that fourth 3-pointer, well, he started 4 or 5 on 3-pointers, and he didn't make 4 in the first quarter. He made 4 throughout the first quarter. Early in the second, he had 11 points total in the first quarter. I think 3 3-pointers. But after he made that fourth 3-pointer, a bank shot, by the way, this at that point you just knew things were going good for him. And he pulled up a heat check. I'm talking about a deep heat check too. And it hit front rim, so he actually almost made it. But the fact that he had the confidence to take that shot, he hit himself. He hit himself on the chest, and said my bad after he took the shot. But the fact that he had the confidence to take that shot stood out to me more than the result of the shot. GG Jackson is getting comfortable, and my friends, that is a scary sight for the NBA. The talent is there, the offensive skill set. The only thing that I've noticed that's kind of held him back on the offensive end, not talking defense right now, offensive end, is the fact that he gets in his head sometimes. Oh, is this a good shot within the flow of the offense? And he gets in his head, rightfully so, because of the fact that he's been taken out of games before when he's taking a bad shot. I've seen it. He takes a bad shot. Taylor Jenkins brings him over there, talks to him, go sit on the bench, think about it for a second. That's happened a couple times with GG Jackson. But, man, he looked good. 27 points, 9 of 13 shooting from the field. That really stood out to me. The efficiency is starting to tick up for him. 10 of 17 shooting from the field. Excuse me. 6 of 10 on 3-pointers in this game. 6 made threes. And let's go to the fourth quarter. Because the first half, he was filthy good. 19 points in the first half. Then the third quarter happened. GG Jackson only scored 2 points against the Bucks in that third quarter. And you started to think, did the Bucks make the right adjustments? Because he wasn't really even getting looks. Like, it wasn't him missing a bunch of shots. I think he shot 1 of 3 in that quarter. But just talk about, these injured guys, they're still having an impact on this team. And this is just the latest example of that with GG Jackson. So in that third quarter, he was struggling and whatnot, and he got in his head a little bit, right? You scored 19 points in the first half, and you only scored 2 in the third. Like, man, what's going on? Like, I'm supposed to get 40 tonight. I'm supposed to get 35. And Desmond Bane notices it. Goes up to GG Jackson, pulls him to the side, tells him, basically, paraphrasing, keep shooting. You shot 3 shots. You only made 1. Shoot 3 more. They'll eventually go in. And in the fourth quarter, GG Jackson made 2 of the biggest shots of the game for the Memphis Grizzlies. He made the first 3-pointer, put the team up, and, after the Bucks took the lead, and then the Bucks regained the lead after he made that 3-pointer, because I think that 3-pointer gave the Grizzlies a 101-100 lead. The Bucks regained the lead, made it 102-101 after a Jay Crowder jumper, which came as a result of GG Jackson helping off of Jay Crowder onto Giannis Antetokounmpo. And, Crowder was open as a result. And he was supposed to help, by the way. It was part of Taylor Jenkins' game plan, doubling, crowding Giannis and whatnot. But that was the plan. And then he made another 3-pointer after that. Desmond Bane, he shouted out Desmond Bane after the game. GG Jackson did. And that was these vets are still having an impact. When he made that second 3-pointer, it was funny to me because Ja Morant was arm's length away from GG Jackson. Like, he was right up on him. He could have probably took the ball out of his hand and shot it if he wanted to, because GG shot it in the corner. So he's right there in front of the Grizzlies bench. It's pressure. It's a wide open shot. Brook Lopez, this big old dude, closing out, and he buried it. He's running up the court. He has this big smile on his face, and GG's just a kid having fun out here. But I tell you what, on a bigger scale, when we talk basketball, I'm pretty much sold on GG Jackson at this point. And when I say sold, I'm talking sold like rotation player on the team next year. So, because you go back a couple episodes Locked On Grizzlies, and my co-host Joe Mona, he's probably going to point this out sooner or later to me. But I think we were talking about the 10 roster spots for the Grizzlies, not 10 roster spots, 10 rotation spots. And the 10th spot for me came down to GG Jackson and John Conchar. And I said John Conchar from a connectivity standpoint, because with the Grizzlies having Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bain, Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, all available. They don't really need a lot of scoring. They don't. They don't. They really don't. They need someone who's going to play defense, can knock down open shots, and kind of just fill in the blanks. A connector. And John Conchar has done that really well in his tenure with the Grizzlies. But let me tell you something, and I want you guys to really think this through. Think back through your history as a Grizzlies fan. All the time you've watched the Grizzlies. How many players on the perimeter? Like, think real hard about this, because I'm not gonna give my answer just yet. Let's save it a little bit. I want Joe to be here when I give my answer. But think hard real quick. When was the last time you seen a player provide instant offense off the bench for the Grizzlies like this? Think about it. When was the last time a player for the Memphis Grizzlies came off the bench and could just score 11 points in the first quarter, 27 in a game off the bench? Second time he scored 27 in a game off the bench. Easily scoring 20 most nights right now. In February, he's just been terrific. The efficiency is going up. I'm sold on GG Jackson. This is a rotation player for the Memphis Grizzlies going forward. He should be at the Rising Stars game with Vince Williams. But another big performance in this game, another guy who scored 27 points was Ziaire Williams. Look, me and Joe were high on Ziaire earlier this season. He's went through his struggles and whatnot. We got to talk about Ziaire Williams. He had a big game. First game back with the Grizzlies, and he made second game back with the Grizzlies, made his presence felt. We're going to talk about the Ziaire Williams bounce back coming up on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get over to that and talk about Ziaire Williams, we got to talk about our friends over there at eBay Motors. So here's the thing about eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Look, and whether you're prepping for a daily fantasy draft, scouting the wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Picks of the Week. And this week we got Marvin Bagley III. Bagley is Washington's starting center right now since the Daniel Gafford trade. Daniel Gafford was traded to the Grizzlies' division rival, Dallas Mavericks. So Daniel Gafford gone, and Marvin Bagley stepping into the starting center spot. That's a big pickup. So your fantasy leagues out there, go pick up Marvin Bagley. He's a double out there waiting to grab you and waiting to be grabbed out there on the fantasy wire. So make sure you go take advantage of that, because Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit, because it's the same way with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, it doesn't matter. Just whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you can just get your money back. It's that simple. And at these prices, you'll be running rubber, not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Cut up on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to give Ziaire Williams some credit. Big game for him. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Grizzlies. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, right here in Memphis, Tennessee, as I like to say, the most beautiful land in the world, as one wise man once said. And a wise man said some words to Ziaire Williams ahead of this recent game. And Ziaire Williams said after the game, said that it had a positive impact on him. That wise man is none other than Taylor Jenkins. So after the game, I was asking Ziaire Williams, basically just like, what was this last few weeks like for you? Trade rumors, injury to his hand. Like, Zaire's been going through a lot lately. And on top of the season not going how he's wanted it to go. And, he talked at the beginning of the year, you guys remember the quote, nobody's worked harder than me. That's what Ziaire Williams said, and you saw him in the preseason. It looked that way. I mean, the guy looked good. Me and Joe were like, yeah, start him, and the Grizzlies did start him, and as you can tell, didn't really last. But Ziaire Williams is starting to find his role, or in his teammates are starting to understand what that looks like as well. Number one, I mean, the alley hoops have been. He's added a whole nother element of excitement to the Grizzlies. Last 2 days, he's had what 3, 4 big time alley hoops. In this game against the Bucks, he caught one, smacked the backboard, and I mean the whole bench jumped up. But Ziaire Williams credit the talk with Taylor Jenkins. Taylor Jenkins said that they had a one-on-one, honest conversation. Laid it out to Ziaire Williams. Let him know what he needs from him going forward. This stretch here, this is a big point for Ziaire Williams, and even above like Taylor Jenkins, like to Zach Kleiman in that group. Ziaire Williams is playing for his Grizzlies' future right now. You heard that from me. Ziaire Williams right now is playing for his Grizzlies' future. Sure, yes, he's under contract for next season and whatnot. But with the way this roster's lining up, I mean, I can just zoom through it real fast for you. With Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., the center position being addressed, or however they figure out that fifth starter spot, and then on top of that, Luke Kennard potentially off your bench, Vince Williams, Gigi Jackson, Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama. I just listed 10 players right there. That's 10. There's no rotation spot for Ziaire Williams unless he performs well, really well, because those 10 guys that I just named are going to do that more times than not. Ziaire Williams, 27 points, and the defense stood out to me. Damian Lillard couldn't shake Ziaire Williams. He couldn't get free. And late in the game, it was a stretch. In the fourth quarter, Giannis wasn't in the game at this point, and Dame pretty much goes heavy ISO mode, just trying to attack his matchup, which was Ziaire Williams. And Ziaire Williams got under the skin a little bit. Not really under the skin because Dame is like super cool. It's not really real rah-rah like that. But under his skin from the standpoint of the defense was so good. You could tell it was bothering him. It was just in Dame finished the game. Check out these numbers. Damian Lillard now, starting point guard for the East in the All-Star game. 24 points, 7 assists. Cool. 7 of 21 shooting from the field. 3 of 13 on three-pointers. 1 made field goal down the stretch in the fourth quarter. 1. To put it simply, Ziaire Williams was a big reason why the Grizzlies won this game. His defense, 27 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 of 13 shooting from the field, 4 of 7 on three-pointers, with 3 steals. And those steals were big, battling Dame Lillard, knocking the ball loose, getting the loose balls. Shout out to Ziaire Williams for putting together a nice quality performance. He needed that, and he's kind of it's funny. Like you look who's out there. He's one of the veteran guys right now, which sounds funny. But in this game in particular, Ziaire Williams got his opportunity, and he's gonna be one of the main Grizzlies to watch down the stretch. How do you guys feel about Ziaire Williams going forward? Does that performance kind of encourage you to want to see more from him, maybe beyond this season, or does it not really move you? Because when I posted, I remember I posted it on X that Ziaire Williams was returning. I'm not gonna really say what people said, but I'll just say that people weren't. It wasn't like y'all are typically when Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, and we made the announcement all those guys returning. I'll just leave it at that. But one guy who won't be returning back to Memphis right now is Vince Williams, because he's already about to head out. He's headed to the Rising Stars Challenge, and probably by the time you watch it, he's already there. We got to talk Vince Williams because he had a big game, but we got to shout out his selection into the Rising Stars Challenge as well, coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, of course, we got some other stuff to talk to you about here on Locked On Grizzlies. We always got some other stuff to talk about because Gigi Jackson was a big part of this game for the Grizzlies. Ziaire Williams was a big part of this game for the Grizzlies. Vince Williams, Lamar Stevens, all those guys were big parts of the Grizzlies. But before we talk about the last piece to that puzzle, which was Vince Williams, we got to talk about our friends over at Robinhood. Because did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? That's right. You can still have an IRA. Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info, claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about Vince Williams Jr. Got to shout him out. Congratulations to Vince Williams Jr. Coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I'm Damichael Cole. Joined you here on Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you continue to like, comment, rate, subscribe, all of those good things. Shout out to all the people listening to the Locked On Grizzlies wherever you are. I see we got people listening, of course, all across the United States. We got some Canadian followers. Shout out to the people who recently joined listening to Locked On Grizzlies all across the world. So we definitely appreciate that. And make sure you continue to like, rate, comment, subscribe, all of those good things as well. By the time you watch this, Vince Williams will already be in Indianapolis, Indiana for the Rising Stars Challenge for NBA All-Star Weekend. He left right after the game. You know, Grizzlies hooked him up a little bit. You know, got his own little flight, and didn't fly commercial. I think Kenneth Lofton Jr. flew commercial to the All-Star game last year, but not Vince Williams. You know, took care of the guy. But, you know, those things are situational. It was nothing about, you know, player treatment. But just wanted to point out that Vince Williams is already there. Going to do his media in the morning around 12 a.m., 11 a.m., close to 12 p.m. And he'll be playing in the Rising Stars Challenge. Vince Williams is going to be a big piece for the Memphis Grizzlies going forward. Duh. But I want to take it a step further here and really dive into why I think that's the case. In this last game is another game that showcased it. Again, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. Let's go stat by stat. With the scoring, the 18 points stand out to me because with these guys out, some of these guys are being put in situations where they got to learn the art of scoring. It's kind of deep for some of you. The art of scoring. Kobe Bryant talked about this a lot. Like just the art of scoring. Scoring is more than just, hey, I had 12 points. The art of scoring is knowing your spots on the floor, getting to those certain spots. The defense can't stop you from getting to those spots. You being patient and, you know, just being consistent. That's the art of scoring. Vince Williams now, you starting to see him play out a pick and roll, get to certain spots, use that floater, shoot the three-pointer. And in this game, Vince Williams didn't make a three. 0 of 2 on three-pointers, still finished with 18 points. It reminds me of the last game, right, against the Rockets. Only one made field goal, still had 14 points. The guy's going to find a way to score one way or another. And that's big because when he's playing on the floor alongside of Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., those type of guys, he's not going to get the ball that much. He's going to have to find ways to score. And he's doing a good job of doing that in a different ways. It's not just, oh, my three-pointer isn't falling today, I'm not going to score. That's not the case with him. Remember, when he first came here, that's how a lot of people viewed him. That's in a way, that's how I viewed him. He's a 3-and-D, not going to give you much else, but we're seeing a whole lot else. And a big part of that whole lot else is the 12 rebounds he had. This is the main reason why I say Vince Williams Jr. is going to be a core piece for the Grizzlies. 6 of them are offensive rebounds. And I alluded to this earlier, but since we're talking big pictures, here's why that matters. Like, let's say that theoretically, Jaren Jackson Jr. is your future starting center for the Grizzlies. I know some of you hearing that, rolled your eyes a little bit, and you said, Damichael, we don't want him as the starting center. I look, and I get it. I get why you don't want him at the starting center spot. I have seen the same rebounded numbers that you have for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I've seen the same numbers. But at the same time, guess what? Taylor Jenkins brought it up. Zach Kleiman brought it up. So they've talked about it. And it still could be addressed, the center spot and whatnot. But the idea is out there. So we're speaking hypothetically right now. But if you throw Jaren Jackson Jr. at center, somebody on that floor better be a dog on the boards. Somebody's got to do it. And Vince Williams, 6 offensive rebounds. It wasn't a fluke. He's had 2 double-doubles in this 6-game stretch where I mentioned earlier that he's had at least 12 points and at least 5 assists in 6 straight games. In 2 of those games, he's had double-doubles, and it's not been with assists. It's been with the boards. He had a 12-rebound game, had an 11-rebound game. He's a dog. And that's how all his teammates describe him. You say one word to describe Vince Williams, and they're going to say dog. We're starting to see it, and he fits this team perfectly. Defensively, he was locked in. I mean, the assignments that he gets defensively tells me everything. That's how you know who's a good defender before you know who's a good defender. Look who they're guarding. Look who the coach is saying, hey, I want you to guard. If you're throwing them on, no disrespect to Malik Beasley, but if you guard Malik Beasley, you're guarding the shooter, the guy you expect to dribble the least amount, to break down the defense the least amount. But Vince Williams, for a stretch, he had to guard Giannis. It wasn't pretty. Giannis is every bit of 6'11", muscle chiseled, had his way with Vince Williams Jr., but the guy was competing. Then he went back on it and had to guard Damian Lillard. Tough matchup. Knocked the ball away from Dame, dived for a loose ball a couple times. They both fell to the floor like Vince Williams was getting after him and Ziaire. The Williams boys really gave Damian Lillard the blues in this game. Man, I'm talking about that good old Memphis blues. Like they gave him the blues. So Vince Williams, with his rebounding, with his connective ability to be a secondary playmaker. Remember, this was something that I highlighted about Marcus Smart, being able to play off of Dez, being able to play off of Ja, and operate as a secondary playmaker, a guy who doesn't have to initiate the offense in the beginning, but being a guy who 7 seconds on the shot clock, you can say, all right, give me a screen, and I'll make something happen. You don't have to just try to throw it back to one of those guys when clearly they're not in an advantageous situation. So Vince Williams Jr. emerging, it really stands out to me. His emergence. He has been big for the Grizzlies. And I'm pretty much at this point, when it comes to Vince Williams, when it comes to G.G. Jackson, that should be your silver lining for the rest of the season. That's the silver lining. No matter win, lose, whatever the record looks like, you should always be able to go to sleep and say, man, it's going to be fun when you see Vince Williams standing beside Ja Morant. When you see G.G. Jackson standing beside Desmond Bane. That's going to be fun for the Grizzlies. That's going to be hard for teams to stop. And, it's going to be tough. Desmond Bane, he's supposed to be back this season. Marcus Smart still has the splint on his hand, so he'll be reevaluated soon, and I think they'll go from there. But he still has the splint on his hand. I'll just make sure I point that out. Brandon Clark is supposed to play this season. You get those guys on the floor, Gigi and Vince, it's going to be kind of fun to watch. I really do believe that. It will be fun to watch. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's Locked On Sports Today. Thank you guys again for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies, and make sure you continue to tune in. Just remember, we're everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen, wherever you watch your podcast. Locked On Grizzlies is there. So we really appreciate you guys for tuning in and sticking with us. Make sure you continue to, tell a friend to tell a friend, subscribe. Say, hey, Locked On Grizzlies show, it ain't too bad. Appreciate you guys' support though. Me and Joe Monek should be back with you next week. Is All-Star break. I know Ziaire Williams said he's going to Turkey and Caicos. I mean, man, he's going to Turks. Vince Williams is going to start his All-Star break in Indy, and then I think Vince Williams, Ziaire Williams is going to Turks, and Gigi Jackson, he's the kid. He's going back home. Gigi Jackson didn't have a big trip planned out, headed back home for him. Lamar Stevens said he's going to stick around in Memphis for a little bit. So there you have it. That's what they're going to be doing over the All-Star break. And me and Joe Wall next, we're going to cut back a little bit, but we will be here with you next week. We're Locked On Grizzlies. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. And remember, Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get podcasts. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked